let's talk about AOC a little bit more. She was on Chris Hayes last night. This is like
Hayes had a good show.
Hayes had a great show last night. But I feel like this is like this is what I think people probably imagine like are my like dreams, like the dreams I have of like Chris Hayes sitting down and talking with AOC, that type of thing. Right? I mean, the day they get together to talk about expanding Social Security, that's probably the day I retire, folks. I'll have seen it all. I'll have done. When she sits down with Hayes in the Oval Office, and his first question is, with a majority Democratic Socialist Congress and Democratic Socialist Senate, what will be the first thing that you do, President Ocasio-Cortez? And she says, I'm going to expand Social Security and finally lift the cap with a small donut hole just for the sake of it. That's when I basically say, like, my job here is done, folks, and I walk away. I turn, instead of having the sun behind my back, I turn and walk into the sun, like at the end of Josie Wales. There it is. Anyways,
A reverie.
Huh?
I think that's what's known as a reverie.
Yeah, that's it. Spoiler alert, I just gave away the end of the show. That's when it ends. Hopefully I'll be able to actually then walk away as opposed to be just wheeled away. That's when Brendan comes up and he's like, it's time to go, Mr. Seder. And just wheels me away. So one of the non-controversies that have surrounded Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was her announcement that she also made with Tlaib, right? From Michigan, that they were, via Justice Democrats, going to continue to primary Democrats. It sounds like primarily in blue states, although it seems like across the board. But they're going to do so in a way that is thoughtful. I don't know if Andrew Gillum was one of the Justice Democrats, but the model seems similar, right? And here she is discussing that primary. And there's a desire, people out there are getting freaked out. How could you primary? How could you talk about primarying Democrats? That's what primaries exist for. Like,
insane.
If you have a problem with someone announcing that they are going to primary Democrats, then what you should be working for is the dissolution of primaries in your party. I mean, it's absurd. But here she has an opportunity to discuss it in a way that hopefully rational human beings can understand.
You, Justice Democrats, Justice Dems, which is a group that had sort of worked with your campaign early on, you and they had sort of announced your plans to continue the process of primarying incumbent Democrats, which is how, of course, you got to Congress. I wonder, how does that color the relationships you have with the incumbents there?
Well, I think what's important to articulate what Justice Democrats is about is really, it's not their mission. Their mission isn't we're going to primary Democrats. Their mission is we're going to support working class candidates to run in midterm elections. And so they have supported and endorsed candidates in red to blues, in open primaries, but they do not shy away from actual primaries in blue races either. And so, I'm not sure if it really changes much because incumbent Democrats support and endorse against other incumbents all the time. You had Dan Lipinski earlier this year.
That's what incumbency is.
That is,
that's being part of the club.
And so, but you have people that also support other primary challengers to incumbents as well. Like, again, you had Dan Lipinski this year, where you have Kirsten Gillibrand, you have Pramila Jayapal, that came in and said, we need change in this community. So I don't think it's anything I don't think it's a departure from precedent at
Right.
all. But I also think that we need to realize that, at least for me and what I tell my community, is that once we get elected to Congress, we don't own these seats. We rent them from our communities. And we have to make our case every single time, and that's not convenient. I'm saying this to you as an incumbent to be.
Yeah.
And I realize that means I hold myself to that standard as well, but I think it makes our democracy healthy.
I mean, it is stunning to me that people are uptight about this.
I'll just mention Horse Whisperer, anonymous centrist account on Twitter, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but was freaking out about the Pelosi stunt, saying did a long numbered thread about how she has to learn what to do in Congress. And I just don't understand that reaction from people, especially now.
First of all, it belies, I mean, if that person was sincere, okay? And I don't know if that person's sincere.
Right.
But if that person's sincere, they don't understand politics at all. It is just as likely that Pelosi welcomed that. Nancy Pelosi, nothing they were asking for was inconsistent with their agenda. The more pressure Pelosi's under, the more she can go and leverage that. That is exactly how politics work. I would love to give you this, but my constituency is going to make me pay. So you've got to come towards my position a little bit. That's what
So it's
FDR said.
FDR, make
that's
me
what
do it.
that's what Barack Obama said. I mean, you don't understand politics if you're freaking out about that. And particularly, you're also not aware of what AOC did. She went in there and she was nothing but gracious to Pelosi, and Pelosi was nothing gracious back to her. If you told me I have a tape of those two talking to each other beforehand about hey, heads up, I'm going to come and join the thing, and Pelosi saying, good, this will work out well, I would not be shocked.
The FDR quote is, "I agree with you. I want to do it. Now make me do it." And the interesting thing is, the first two clauses aren't that important. Even if somebody doesn't agree with him, you can still attempt to make them do it. But it's obviously better to have people that want to be made to do something.
Well, those first two clauses basically just provide the how paramount the third clause is.
Right.
Because it's never mind that I want you to do it. That's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to do is irrelevant, is what he's saying. Exercise the power over me.
Plus, if you think the composition of these Democrats are troublesome with regards to, I guess being corporate, if we want to call it that, the Dixiecrats were Democrats with the Dixiecrats were had a bit more structural obstacles, I think, to passing some of this stuff.
Exactly. Colin from Nebraska. What are your ideal federal income tax rates? Top rate starting at what? Maximum income. Top rate starting at what amount of income? Maximum income. I got to be honest with you. I don't have an ideal federal income tax rate because I haven't sat down and done it, but I am perfectly comfortable with something that is similar to what we had in the 50s and early 60s, where the top income rate is 90%, and on the first, every dollar after, I don't know, $2 or $3 million that whatever it was, I think then it was $470,000. Now today that would be $2 or $3 million.
Well, you know how we got, speaking of FDR, we got the 94% rate, is FDR wanted to make in today's dollars, every dollar over 350, 100% taxed. And
350,000?
350,000.
Not in today's dollars.
In today's dollars, it would be 350,000. In those dollars, it'd be $25,000 a year.
It was 94% on everything over $25,000?
Well, this is the proposal. So FDR proposed a 100% top tax rate. At time of, quote, grave national danger, Roosevelt told Congress in April 1942 that no American citizen ought to have a net income after he has paid taxes of more than $25,000 a year. That would be $350,000 in today's dollars.
So that was his opening salvo, but that's not where it landed.
That's not where it landed, but that's how he started, and I'd be totally happy with saying nothing over. I would say like $500,000 or something like that. $1 million.
Every dollar
whatever.
after that, 90 cents, 100 cents on the dollar.
But I would say like I would have 100% option too, so where like I don't know if you put it at $10 million, so basketball players could get their full close to their contracts or something like that. I don't know. That's who I'm worried about.
You're worried about the basketball.
The only people I care about when it comes to raising these tax rates are professional athletes.
and video game makers.
No, Rockstar needs to unionize, even though Red Dead Redemption 2 is great.